Buying the wrong products to sell on Amazon can kill your business before you ever even get started. So in this video, I'm going to show you some specific examples of mistakes that I made. This literally cost me thousands of dollars, and tons of other new Amazon sellers fall for the exact same traps. So after this video, you'll know how to avoid all these red flag products that would have cost your business thousands, and instead just let me make the expensive mistakes and you run with it. Because when you first start Amazon, you'll see a lot of people that say you need to create your own product, create your own marketing, spend $5,000, $10,000 developing a product, when that's just simply not true. And after this video, you'll know how to find more products like this example right here, where we can find it on the cosmetics brand's website for 30 bucks. Plus I was able to find a 15% coupon right up here. And then we can sell that exact same product on Amazon today for $50, which leaves us with a $12 profit, nice healthy ROI, all that kind of stuff. So using this quick example of something that I would buy, let's talk about the stuff that you want to see on a profitable Amazon lead. And then I'll show you a lot of these traps that some of you guys would probably fall for otherwise. These super basic metrics that I'm looking for on every product are how fast it sells, how profitable the product is. And then the third thing is checking for a lot of these red flags we're going to be looking at today. But on this specific products, I didn't see any of those. So for me, anything that I'm selling at least 30 times a month has at least $3 profit or more and at least 35% return on investment, I'm generally going to go ahead and pull the trigger on that item. And by the way, I'm going to be pointing out a lot of specific things that are on this free downloadable guide you can check out. Basically everything that I personally look at before I buy a product to sell in my $2 million a year Amazon business. You can check out this free PDF down below, but let's go ahead and jump into the first mistake that I see a lot of new Amazon sellers make. And it's on an example like this, right? So let's say you found this product for 20 bucks, sells decently, it sells for $52 online. Great. It looks like you're making money, right? But there's a big problem with this item, and this cost me a ton of money. I was just, oh, it's profitable today, let me buy it. But nothing's going to go wrong, right? But what's really important to look at is down here on SellerAmp, I really like to make sure that my products are profitable. Maybe not ideal, most profitable in the world if I want to take a little bit of a risk, but I want to make sure they're profitable somewhat at the average prices on an item. So for example, you can see today, even though the price is like 47 bucks or so, we're making really good money. On average, the price is only $18. So if you've ever done like, stock trading or anything like that, where you're looking at like risk reward, our upside here is that we make decent money. We're making $15 a unit or so here. But our downside is that we lose almost $10 a unit. It seems like it might not be the worst trade in the world, but there's just way too many good items out there where that average price might be 10% ROI, 20% ROI. In fact, generally when I'm looking at products, I'm looking for a 25% ROI at the 90-day average buy box. So if you're taking notes, that's a good little like random metric to keep in mind if you want to make sure that your profit is consistent. Because when you check out the charts feature down here on SellerAmp, you're going to see that it's very historically sold for around 16, 17 bucks. Very recently went up to 52. This is a very dramatic example. You're not going to see too many products like that, but you will see a lot of products where that average price is not nearly the profit you want to be looking for. And it's just not really a consistent long-term pricing, basically. At the very least, when you're sourcing products, just make sure that price line has a little bit of consistency to it. You don't want to buy the item today, price goes back down to 17 bucks where it usually was in the past, and you're never making money on something like that. So make sure pricing's consistent. That's one of the biggest traps that I see a lot of new Amazon sellers fall for is, ooh, the profit's great right now, I got to buy it, right? But just take a little bit of that extra step there and make sure you're not losing money. The next thing I want to talk about, if you didn't already know, you're not allowed to sell just anything on Amazon, right? Some of these companies will sell the brands themselves, or they'll work directly with people to basically have an exclusive relationship, that kind of thing. And we can use Keepa to figure out which products are like that. So for example, here's an item right now that it's got 2 sellers on it. Back here a few days ago, it had 6 sellers, and you see how pretty much all at once, all these sellers all disappeared off this listing. What that shows me is that there was probably an IP complaint on this item where the brand said, hey, we don't know who these 4 sellers are. We didn't authorize you to sell our products. And that's well within their right. So it's up to us as the Amazon sellers to make sure that we're selling stuff that the brand owners aren't policing, and that we're obviously buying from big major retailers, big major distributors, so that if there were any time where a brand said, hey, where are you getting this? We don't know who you are. You can at the very least submit your documentation that says, hey, we bought it at walmart.com. It's obviously legit. If you don't want to sell on it, no big deal. But you don't want your account health to be in jeopardy, right? Because you don't want that brand to be able to come in there, kick you off, say, hey, you're selling fake stuff on Amazon. Amazon gets on your case, and then you can get in a world of hurt. And then also, if we zoom out to the year here, you can see that happened previously as well. See, it went like 3 people got kicked off here all at once. You'll see right there where it was like 25, and then like a couple hours later, it was down to 20. So you'll see examples like that on Amazon. If you ever see like a lot of people just rapidly selling out, that's not necessarily an IP complaint. It's when it happens all at once, right? So back here, it doesn't seem like they were IP complaining. It was like 57 sellers. You can see how naturally one by one, people just sell out, people stock back in, that kind of stuff. But when you see that big cliff, several people getting kicked off all at once, that's probably a good sign that you want to avoid at that brand. And by the way, if you're ever unsure, I just think it's a really good idea. If you've never sourced a brand before, sometimes SellerAmp example, have an IP alert there. It'll let you know that brand has maybe IP complained in the past. Seems like maybe a relatively new brand to IP complaining. Another thing you can check here is called seller journal green light. So in this case, that glow wasn't showing up there, but if you see brands like Kong that are notorious IP complainers, if you've never sold a certain brand before, literally a free website, just go check it and make sure that brand is not gonna, come after you basically. And then another reason why you wouldn't want to sell a specific product is, take an example like this Lego Star Wars set right here. Not only do you want to avoid competing on listings where the brand is policing it, that kind of thing, we also need to avoid competing on listings where Amazon is hogging a ton of the sales. So you can check out the buy box analysis on SellerAmp here. And for example, competing with Amazon is a pretty classic example of when you probably won't be able to make too many sales on an item. It's their marketplace. They tend to dominate the sales and that kind of stuff. So for example, you can see here in the last 90 days, Amazon has 94% of the sales on this product. Not super healthy. If you compare that to that example we started the video with, you see how there's lots of small third-party sellers. Seems like this seller's doing a pretty good job of staying in stock and that kind of stuff, but there's plenty of other sellers who are making sales. Definitely looks different than this right here, where Amazon is basically dominating a lot of the sales here. And by the way, if you don't already have access to all this data, make sure you go ahead and check out a free trial of SellerAmp down below. That's going to basically help you source all your products, look at all these little data points that we're basically being able to disqualify products, and it's just a no-brainer if you are an Amazon seller. So make sure you check out a free trial down below. And then let's go ahead and talk about the next types of products that you would not want to sell on Amazon. This is pretty similar. I just want to show you 3 cases of items that I'd pretty much just avoid. So Amazon's on it, police, there's lots of people getting kicked off. And if you ever see the brand name as a seller, you can see this Naturello, or however they say it there, the product title, and then it's also the name of the seller on this listing. Those are going to be classic examples of products where they generally are only going to have one seller on it, and it's going to be them, right? They want to dominate all the sales. So you can see, it seems like they're on this listing like 3 times. And this poor new seller right here, he's probably going to get an IP complaint, unfortunately, because they weren't watching a video like this, right? So you want to avoid products where the brand themselves are selling that product. And by the way, all this stuff is super important to make sure you're actually making profit long term. If you're relatively new to Amazon, at the end of this video, I'll leave a link to a master sourcing guide. So not only just avoid these products, I'll also show you how to actually find good winning products and break some down with you live. But let's go ahead and keep chugging along through the list here. And that's where I want to show you something that isn't as much of a, don't buy this product, you're going to get in trouble, that kind of thing. But if you listen to this, your margins will be a lot higher as an Amazon seller, right? So take, for example, like this pair of shoes here. This is a brand that most of you guys should be able to sell, all that kind of stuff. Not a dangerous brand. The brand doesn't sell it, doesn't meet any of those other kind of criteria. But when it comes to selling products that are in high return categories, so for me personally, that's going to be stuff like electronics, shoes, clothes, anything where people might have to try it on or something can break easily, make sure you price that into the profit that you're looking for. So for example, we found these for 35 bucks. We can make a 31% ROI, $11 profit, that kind of thing. And in reality, you probably still make a little bit of money selling stuff like this, but especially when it comes to stuff like women's shoes, which is some of the highest return rates on Amazon, even over a lot of clothes and especially like men's and kids stuff, that kind of stuff. Women's shoes tend to just get returned a lot. So I'm generally never going to buy anything below a 35% ROI for those high return categories. In fact, for women's shoes specifically, I like to look for at least 45% ROI. On average, if you factor in like the risk of how likely someone is to return, if you're even gonna be able to resell that product again, on average, I factor in about an extra $2.50 to $3 per unit, especially in shoes and that kind of stuff, just for the expected cost of getting returns basically. So if you're doing your rough math there, let's say it costs you another $3, you're down to $8 profit. If it gets returned one time, a lot of the fees aren't refunded. So like when Amazon does the work of shipping it off to the customer, take it off the shelf, all that kind of stuff, Amazon doesn't refund that because they already did the work. And then that pretty much deletes the rest of your profit, right? Just a really good idea to make sure you're strict on making sure that price is stable, making sure that the ROI is solidly high. Again, I like 40 or 45% for high return items. Compare that to something like a grocery item, for example, right? You can see down here how it says that it is not returnable due to food and safety reasons, right? So on something like this, I might hop in and buy a 25% ROI, that kind of stuff, especially if the per unit profit is worth it. I'm going to go in there and throw it into boxes, all that kind of stuff. If the profit is good enough for you and the ROI isn't quite up to standard, it doesn't really matter because you've already factored in the cost of that return, right? It's going to be zero on a lot of these grocery items, basically. So as long as you remember, get greedy on high return items, get a little less greedy on items that can't be returned. So that's going to be grocery, some vitamin products, that kind of stuff. You're going to be super set. I know a lot of new sellers, they'll come in and they'll buy like 20, 25% ROI shoes and they're wondering why they're not making money. You just got to be a little bit more strict with that kind of stuff, basically. And that actually takes me to another thing that you want to avoid. This is something that I definitely wasn't thinking about as a new seller. I bought some stuff that was meltable, which you can see here on SellerAmp that it tells me that this product is a meltable item. So you're able to sell meltable items during the summer. You just can't send them to Amazon FBA. So if you plan on selling this chocolate gift box here, you'd have to have a cost-effective way to get this item shipped out to customers in probably throw an ice pack in there, an insulated bag, all that kind of stuff. And so those costs are going to add up pretty quick. And especially if you plan on doing only FBA, that kind of stuff, just make sure that your products are not meltable. And that's only during the summer months. But outside of the summer months, you can see here, April 15th to October 15th, you cannot send to Amazon FBA if it's a meltable item. Outside of that, you can send to FBA all you want. In fact, insider tip, everyone has to sell out of all their like meltables and stuff in April. April 15th was the date, right? So if you just want some like chocolates or meltable vitamins or something like that for the personal, it's always cheapest like the week before April 15th. Fun fact for you. And that's because all the Amazon sellers are lowering prices to sell out rather than having to ship it back to their house and all that kind of stuff. So think about that in the spring. I wouldn't be buying too many meltables if you plan on FBMing them. And then if you're wanting to prep for an awesome start to the holiday season, maybe you start buying some meltables in early October, have a big shipment of them ready to go out on October 15th. You'll see every year the prices tend to be the highest for meltable items within the first couple days. And a lot of people make bank being the FBA sellers on those first couple days of the season there. And if you really want to cash in on something like that, where the prices are way higher, you want to make those sales as fast as possible, that's where you use Boxem to create those 2D barcodes. And using Boxem 2D barcodes literally just looks like this right here, goes on the FBA label. Boxem does it for you automatically, able to get faster check-in times, and you'll beat everybody else to the punch and make a bunch of extra profit basically. And that takes me to another item that you'll have to be a little bit careful if you're considering shipping to Amazon FBA, which is going to be hazmat items. So that's going to be stuff like aerosol cans, perfumes, that kind of stuff. You can see something like this is going to be hazmat. If you're logged into your Amazon Seller Central on any other tab, it'll tell you if that item is hazmat on the alerts panel of Seller Amp here. And not that you can't sell these items via FBA, you just have to have special approval to sell hazmat items via FBA, which by the way, you can get on the wait list on Seller Central. You just go up to the top, search like dangerous goods. It'll walk you through how to get on the wait list there. And then if you do go ahead and list any of those items FBM, make some FBM sales where you're shipping directly to the customer on those hazmat items. It'll generally cheat you up the wait list for FBA. It's another kind of hack for you guys to take advantage of there. But especially if you're a beginner, just be careful buying items that are hazmat. Again, just make sure you're logged into Amazon Seller Central, and the alerts panel here on Seller Amp will make it easy for you. Another major mistake that I see a lot of new Amazon sellers doing is buying from sites that they're not sure if they can trust or not. So this is an example of a site that I started buying some products from the other day. I'd never seen it before. I wasn't sure if I was going to get scammed and all that kind of stuff. So let me just quickly walk you through the process of basically how I figure out if a website is going to take my money, they're not going to ship me any real product, and all that kind of stuff, right? So there's 3 quick tests that I like to do. The first one is going to be seeing if they have any kind of cashback offer. So I can check that by going to Cashback Monitor. This basically shows me all the different cashback providers. And in this example, I can see that like 7 or 8 different websites here have basically gone in. They said, oh, this website's legit. Let's go ahead and make some kind of commission for it, that kind of thing, right? So these cashback services, they're not going to partner with anyone that they think is a scam, obviously. And so if you see a decent amount of cashback partners, that's always a good sign. Another really good one is if they offer PayPal at checkout. It's really hard for someone to scam you if you use PayPal. You can go in and get your money back pretty quickly, basically. And then another one that I've been doing recently, this has been helping me a lot, is checking the domain age. So for example, let's punch in this website here. You can see it's literally 27 years old. That's probably going to be a pretty trustworthy website here in that case. I wouldn't only go off of domain age because obviously a lot can change on a website and that kind of stuff. But I had a student recently send me a website. They weren't sure if it was real. I punched in right here, it was like 4 days old or something. I was like, I probably want to avoid that. At the very least, let's see if they can make some sales and that kind of stuff. We don't want to be their guinea pig. And they also weren't accepting any cash back. They didn't have PayPal. So it just seemed pretty sketchy overall. So with all that in mind, you know how to avoid mistakes that could potentially cost you thousands of dollars selling on Amazon. Again, if you want that full list of everything that I check before I buy a good product, I'll leave it down below. You can check it out. It's a free PDF. And then also, if you did find this video valuable and you want to help me out with my childhood dream of getting that 100K shiny YouTube plaque, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate that. And also go ahead and let me know down below if you have any questions, comments, anything like that. Always super happy to answer those for you guys. But I really appreciate you watching this video, and I will see you next time.